recapitalization of the banking industry in Nigeria. The central bank has put in place a policy to drive this recapitalization exercise, given the commercial, merchants, non-interest banks, and promoters of proposed banks in Nigeria 2 years period to meet up the requirements. For international banks, banks that want to operate, commercial banks that want to operate internationally, they must have 500 billion naira. For those that want to operate nationally, that is just within Nigeria, they must have 200 billion naira as capital base. The regional banks, those that want to operate in the east, maybe just in the north, maybe in the south, will have 50 billion naira. Merchant banks that want to operate nationally must have capital base of 50 billion, while those that want to operate non-interest merchants banks must have 20 and 10 billion naira respectively, depending on if they're going nationally or regionally. So this was done and backed by the Bank and Other Financial Institution Act 2020, Section 9 of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Recent times, the inflation in Nigeria, the rate, has eaten deep into the capital base of banks, particularly the exchange rate, where dollar now exchanges for 100 and something naira, 1,000 and something naira. I'm not sure of the particular rate for today. Pounds going as far as 200 now, has dropped down to 1,005, 1,006, oscillating between that range. It has shrink the capital base of banks. Remember, just last year, dollar was changing for about 800, 700. But now, today, for you to change a dollar to naira, it has to be 1,002. So any bank in Nigeria operating internationally, this would affect their capital base. So for them to be able to manage the prevailing microeconomic challenges and headwind occasioned by the external and domestic shocks, they have to increase their capital base. It has to be adequate. It has to match up the external resilience, both external and internal. The banks have to be solvent. They have to continue to grow their capital base, which is why the CBN came up with this policy, and it is expected to take effect in the next 2 years. We all know that anytime the banking industry in Nigeria embark on recapitalization, oftentimes it leads to job losses. People will have to leave employment. Some banks will not get those that were able to acquire them. They may not be able to go through merger and acquisition, while some banks would go into merger and acquisition. Those that are unable to go into merger and acquisition, their workforce, most of them will lose their jobs. This is why the NLC also has called the attention of the CBN into this, that people might lose their jobs, and it will be bad for the economy. So this is what is happening in the banking industry as of now. People should be aware. You should be aware where you're keeping your money. You should know if they'll be able to meet the capital requirements. However, we understand that your funds are safe because of the NDIC money deposit, that it is a form of deposit. To there is no need for panic because your money is actually insured by the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation. So even if your bank fails to meet the recapitalization target, your monies are safe because they are actually insured by this body. So it's just for you to understand what is going on in the banking sector, and for you to know and pay attention to your bank if your bank will be able to meet the minimum capital requirement that I just read out to you.